Good morning, everyone, from my side as well. So welcome to the third part or fourth part of this webinar, Daikin Europe as a case study, voice of the manufacturer. First of all, a big thanks to the KEYMARK Secretariat for giving us the opportunity to participate in this webinar and share with you the voice of the manufacturer in the Heat Pump KEYMARK certification process. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Tom Lapere from Daikin Europe, as already said, responsible for the voluntary product certification within the EU area. Let me start by giving some background information on why we have stepped into the Heat Pump KEYMARK back already in 2016. I will try to give an insight on our initial and current motivation to participate, as well as a further look into the benefits of the scheme in general, and for us as a certificate holder in particular. Secondly, I will also tackle the challenges we faced so far and the ways the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme provides an answer to those challenges. Okay, so let's have a look at why Daikin stepped into the Heat Pump KEYMARK. So we have been one of the early adopters of the scheme. We have achieved the first certificate back in 2016. I think the reason for this long-standing partnership is an obvious common interest to establish a quality label, which is widely recognized in the European heat pump market. When we have a look at the Heat Pump KEYMARK objectives, as already explained by Tariq, the scheme was established to create a single certificate, which is open to all interested parties, with a transparent character and with a strong recognition as a trustworthy label. At the same time, the certificate should be in line with European regulation, eco-design, and subsequently apply the minimum requirements published in there. We as a manufacturer, on the other hand, equally were in favor of a single certificate, basically to cover the large portfolio for residential heat pumps, as this would allow us to cut costs, which would in the end benefit the customer. We're also much in favor of a recognized pan-European scheme, eliminating as much as possible the need to apply to local authorities with local schemes for different certification schemes or incentive schemes. We are in favor as well of the independency we have on the stakeholder sides. So no longer having to go via one party, be it now certification body, test lab, or auditor, as this allows us to have the freedom of choice when partnering up with a stakeholder. Let me elaborate a bit further on the benefits, on the additional benefits it brings us. So we believe that the KEYMARK product certification can contribute to the energy transition by promoting this energy efficient and high quality products, harmonizing the standards across Europe and providing confidence to consumers. For us as well, what is important is, for example, was the non-mandatory character of the marking, especially seeing the growing complexity of our product portfolio and the introduction of the so-called dual production, where we have to move or divide the production of the same material in different production sites. We were especially keen on not being fixed to a mandatory character of marking. We also believe that the KEYMARK scheme is a customer-oriented scheme. The manufacturer has a clear voice in steering the scheme. At the same time, we also see a flexible attitude to incorporate market opportunities and demands with a short go-to-market implementation time in the scheme rules itself. To give an example, with the evolution of local building regulations, for example, in France, to allow certified values in calculators on new domains or applications such as space cooling or domestic hot water, we've seen a quick response from the scheme to incorporate those new trends and allow them to have them certified as performances in the database. Now let's move on to the challenges we had to overcome with the certification process. So as already said, one of the first hurdles we had to take was finding a way to certify the whole of our residential portfolio. And we had two concerns here. So how can we cover the many models we put on the market while at the same time limiting the number of tests for admission as much as possible? And secondly, there's a requirement to have certified performances easily retrievable, and as such have our customers grant easy access to the database through the product identifier they know. We have in the market many product identifiers. We have a device which is put on the market with its product number, which is basically the number you will find on the nameplate or on the rating plate. On the other hand, we have an internal material name, which is more like an umbrella name to cover product numbers from different manufacturing locations, but basically the same material. And with only one minor model modifications. For example, a software version which needs to be upgraded could result in another product number, but not in another material name. And our marketing department then commercializes or promotes the materials with so-called commercial names, as mentioned on our, for example, on our dealer supporting tools or commercial documentation. The KEYMARK scheme provides a solution there for the first concern we had with the model classification. Also already explained, we have the type and subtype classification, which allows us to group models which comply to the requirements of the subtype, but different in application modes, such as, for example, heating only or reversible with backup heater, without backup heater, power supply, and so on. For the second concern, when we talk about the identifier, the database allows us to search both on only a fraction or a part of the identifier. So it's easily retrievable on both product number and material name. Oh, sorry. A bit too fast. When we then look at our challenges, but that's more of an internal insight. We have to keep our portfolio as slim, as limited as possible to avoid the constraints or the headaches at the certification site. Secondly, we need to make sure that how we put our materials in the market is in line with how we put it in the database and as well as how we put it in commercial documentation. A next hurdle is the organization of the annual factory production control. This is a requirement for all the manufacturing sites, but to meet the ever-changing market demands and to achieve the sales objectives, we need to choose more and more also for local production at more than one facility. So this has led to the current situation where we have a portfolio which is now spread over 5 facilities. And as well, this leads to an increase of the factory production control. Of course, this has to be organized on an annual basis. There again, I think KEYMARK brings a solution with the creation of a pool of auditors. So it is for us fairly easy to organize as a manufacturer or certificate holder to make sure that the agendas are matched both from the auditor as well as from the factory side. As well as we believe that the annual factory production control is an extra external instrument to guarantee that our models are produced according to the same quality standards. When we then look at the Daikin challenge, we believe that it's a benefit to act on possible observations or non-conformities which have been reported by the auditor, as well as the sampling requirement we have to fulfill is a challenge. It's put there on the screen and already mentioned by Tariq and Mario. We need to make sure that when we have a split system which is sampled, that basically the outdoor and indoor unit are there at the storage room of one of the factories, so that it's easy for the auditor to make the sampling on just one location. Then the hurdle of the testing. Once the models are sampled for admission or for surveillance testing, we have to organize it. And that's you have as a certification department or section have to make sure that we are there in line, especially when we talk about new developments, to make sure that the KEYMARK certificate is achieved at the time of the sales launch. Because sales launch of a new product could potentially be delayed because we will not launch, or we cannot launch without a Heat Pump KEYMARK certificate. So it's a prerequisite for the launching of a new development. There, I think we believe that the scheme is well organized because with one test report you can certify or apply up to 5 subtypes, regardless of the time this report was achieved. And that's an important one, I believe, where we sometimes have to make use of to make sure that timing is kept. On the other hand, sampling is considered per number of subtypes, not per application. So the sample size applies regardless of the time elapsed. That was said. Also there, the pool of test labs is constantly growing. And this gives us the opportunity to work out some fallback scenarios in case one of the test labs we usually work with has a full agenda or has only limited test capacity. The challenge we have to overcome is to find a match between the availability of the mass production models and the availability of the test rooms. The fourth hurdle is within the application process is the input of our official performances, our data values in the Heat Pump KEYMARK database. So the principle we adhere is certified data equals eco-design data. Again, as a concern, a proper internal coordination is crucial, as the issuing of the data is one of the last steps done in a new development process, so by our design departments. As such, we need to make sure that there are no hiccups between exporting the data from our database and importing it back into the KEYMARK database. So correct maintenance of our master data management, of our master data, is therefore crucial. Then as a final hurdle, fifth hurdle, I believe we have seen that Europe has been a patchwork of schemes, listings, incentive schemes, certification schemes with different eligibility criteria. We believe that the KEYMARK scheme, the Heat Pump KEYMARK scheme, already took major steps in having the certificate fully accepted in countries or major markets such as France and Germany. It is a base of it is accepted as a base of the certified performances as well for example, for entry in the French EPBD calculators, and therefore fully equivalent to already established schemes in the French market. And so that gives us the opportunity to certify a heating model only once for one scheme in Europe, or at least for those countries which have already adhered to the scheme. Moreover, we also see that there is a big improvement in the simplification of the certification process, with allowing KEYMARK certificate being a part of that particular process. We see that in some cases, the tested evidence, the test report, and the classification into subtypes is accepted for having the range we want to cover tested, or at least to cover the tested or the test requirement for a particular scheme in different countries. So the testing part is basically covered. What is important is that we need to make sure that KEYMARK is taking additional steps for those certification programs or incentive schemes where additional requirements are put. We are much in favor, of course, of a lean process where the certificate could basically work for all schemes in Europe without having to go through another round of documentation, acceptance, or verification by yet another organization or body. So that brings us to my conclusion, or to our conclusion for this webinar. We believe that there is, when we look at the Heat Pump KEYMARK, we see the following benefits. It's an assurance of quality. The KEYMARK certificate is a voluntary third-party certificate for products and services, demonstrating to end users that a product is in full conformity with the relevant standards. On energy efficiency, the scheme also promotes the importance of certified products and their role in creating secure and energy efficient supply and usage. Using the KEYMARK certified products can help reduce energy consumption and promote as such energy efficiency. For the manufacturer, it means that there is a reduced admin and testing costs. It gives us immediate access to many of the heat pump support schemes, reducing basically testing costs for us as a manufacturer or trader. It's accepted in many EU countries. Once tested and certified, KEYMARK products are accepted, making it easier for manufacturers and traders to sell their products across Europe. And there is a big alignment with European standards. The KEYMARK is an important quality label for residential heat pumps, demonstrating the quality and is in line with the eco-design regulation. So as such, the KEYMARK can contribute to the energy transition in Europe. Again, repeating my last, the comments of the last hurdle. At the same time, we are a strong defender of further acceptance in those markets where local certifications are the reference. And therefore, we believe the next steps will be, or the next step will be to seek a direct link between future incentive schemes and the heat pump KEYMARK certificate. That's it. So thank you for listening. And I'm open for any question. So I will pass the word back now to you, Danae.
Yes, thank you, Tom. Thank you for sharing your experience, and it's really great to have the manufacturer's perspective regarding the Heat Pump KEYMARK certification.